Morning, good morning. What's up, folks? How's everybody doing this morning? Let me get the live stream going in Discord real quick. Apologies, I tried to pull off a last minute reboot because I just wasn't totally happy with kind of how things were moving on my PC, and I didn't want that to be an issue while we were going through our stream this morning. So I went ahead and tried to pull that off the last second. I think I got it in just in the nick of time. So sorry if I'm scrambling a little bit, getting things going everywhere all at once. But let me get everything on the right monitors so it's easier for me to track. Okay, so let's dig in also while I'm here. Let me go to the watch list because I know we have a couple of trade plans that we want to review from last week. It's automatically doing that. So let's see. There's the weekend plans, NVIDIA, MU, and Snow. We've already got those up. Let's see. The live stream plans from last week were... Come on, where are my live stream plans? Adobe. And what was the other one? I know we did at least two. IBM. Yeah, looks like IBM. I don't think we had any other ones, did we? No. Okay. Cool. Let's go. All right. So, taking a look at things here on futures, we've clearly cut through some of these supply zones. We talked a bit last week about watching this range above 55.85. We were looking for things to test higher. Below 55.42, things could possibly pull back. So we've stayed on the sunny side of that range. We're up above the 333 SMA currently. 200 starting to curl up here on the hourly, so things look like they're trying to build a base and maybe flip things back to kind of going fully bullish here on the hourly by the 200 cutting back above the 333. So we'll see how that plays out. We do, of course, as I think pretty much everybody knows, we've got the Fed interest rate decision tomorrow at 2 p.m. along with economic projections and Jerome Powell's press conference at 2:30. There has been some wild speculation and I think some letters written to Powell, or at least I've seen rumors of that. I've not independently investigated any of this, so do take it with a grain of salt. But some requests to try to get him to cut it by 3/4 or 75 basis points, which I find extremely unlikely. But could certainly see a quarter point or 25 basis point cut, quarter point, which I think is what everybody's expecting. Who knows? Maybe it falls somewhere in the middle of that at a 50. I said that wouldn't be totally surprising. I don't think 75 basis points is even really on the table, though, if you want my candid opinion on it. So it will be interesting to see how the market handles that. Going into today, obviously, we're on a nice move to the upside after bouncing off of PT1 for puts from the SPY plan from yesterday, and it's continued to push higher from there. That was pretty much our low a day there yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see, especially with this kind of bigger move happening overnight, if we don't just kind of consolidate today. Obviously, I'll put out a new iteration of the SPY plan before the market opens to make sure that we kind of have an idea of what range to watch. But I would say trade small, trade cautiously today and tomorrow morning until after that rate decision comes out. We could see just lots of chop. Could be volatile chop, could be kind of just totally boring and disinteresting chop. So time is of the essence when we're trading options, so just keep that in mind, and you don't want to get stuck in a trade that just isn't moving in either direction, right? I'd rather be hitting price targets or getting stopped out. I don't want to see just kind of left to right sideways price action. That's like the worst thing in the world when you're holding options contracts. At least for me it is. Tell me my plan was right or wrong. Don't sit here and dilly-dally about it. So anyway, that being said, like I said, trade light, trade cautious, stay nimble as we get ready for some of these bigger catalysts with regards to what's happening in the markets. All right, let's get to some trade plan recaps, see how things have shaken out for our member selected trade plans that we did over the weekend. Why does this look strange? Where's my... This whole tab looked like it loaded wrong. Sometimes TradingView does that. There we go. That looks better. So NVIDIA was the number one, or actually I think it was tied with MU for the number of votes that it received over the weekend for member selected trade plans. Let's just for now turn those indicators off. So we opened up below the put entry. It dumped down to just below PT1 for puts before ultimately bouncing. This for me was a no. Like, I wasn't chasing it trade. I was looking for potential backtest entry opportunities. And the more I thought about it, the more I kind of took into consideration that we do have this rate decision coming up this week. And I don't want to be kind of too big in any positions at the moment until this is behind us. And then I'll kind of play the reaction. So overall, I haven't touched NVIDIA yet personally. Did give some interesting looking breakdown and back tests. But again, just you always have to sort of be aware, even when you've got a trade plan. You know, I was just having this conversation over the weekend with somebody I was mentoring. You know, stick to the charts before anything else, and don't, you know, get too hung up on trying to take a position that an upcoming catalyst may benefit. You know, stick to the plans and stick to what the charts are telling you to do. You know, find those areas of opportunity where you break above or below a key level. But the one thing that you should and could take into consideration when you're thinking about you know, some of these weeks where we have a major catalyst like this FOMC meeting on Wednesday, and the rate decision and the notes and the Jerome Powell press conference that's going to come from that, you know, just have that gauge really how you're sizing your positions, or if you're trading at all. But don't try to position yourself for anticipated upside or downside because you think the market is going to react one way or the other to that catalyst that's coming up. So anyway, just kind of quick point that I thought was important to make as I talk about, you know, my personal interest in getting into a bunch of options trades right now. Shares, selling options, all that sort of stuff, still always on the table for me. But as far as when I want to buy options, I try to be pretty strategic and methodical about that. You know, that's 75% of the time I'm interested in buying options, but there are times where like we saw earlier this year, where VIX is just like totally shot through the roof over the course of a weekend. You know, that is not a good time to buy options contracts, right? Because even when the trade does move in your favor, VIX comes down, and then all of a sudden your, you know, trades that would any other time be profitable aren't profitable, right? So this is all about stacking profits on top of profits and compounding our gains. And sometimes a penny saved is a penny earned, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So anyway, NVIDIA I haven't touched. Again, I'm not touching much this week until after tomorrow's rate decision and Jerome Powell's press conference. That being said, let's continue on though. Let's look at the plans. I will talk you guys through these because I know not everybody is as conservative as I am when it comes to when they want to be trading options, and certainly want to give you guys my input on anything that you may be holding or in when it comes to these plans that we've put together. So MU, kind of same thing as NVIDIA. We saw the really good breakdown and started hitting price targets pretty much before the market opened, and then by the time the market opened, we were already down at PT1. So again, this one was for me a no trade setup for a number of reasons that we've already discussed with regards to NVIDIA. But did get down to PT1, broke down below, saw some resistance at it. Ultimately, it's been bought back up and is moving with the markets currently, but testing this 200 SMA, some bearishness here on Neptune on the 15 minutes. So this one's not totally out of the woods, but back over 88.91. This one could be potentially interesting for a recovery type move. So keep that on watch. A break back over 88.91 probably at least brings 90.20. And I would certainly set a tight stop on that, probably around this gap entry down here at 88.19. So just some thoughts on how you could repurpose these levels from the plan that we did over the weekend. Yeah, Strife, I agree. I love trading view, but every once in a while it just loads a tab weird or something like that. But that's pretty, few and far between. I realized like I wasn't seeing my extended hours sessions in the background. I was like, that doesn't look right. Snow was the last one that we did from the member selected tickers over the weekend. Excuse me. Get a little bit more coffee in. Hang on. So, with Snow, we saw it test the stop loss average down for the put side of things. That was pretty much our high of day. It's rejected down from that. Gave us a pretty good confirmed break below. But again, I'm just not touching a whole lot right now. It was also dipping down into these 15-minute SMAs that could bring some buying pressure, and did bring some buying pressure in there. But would be interesting to see if this one rejects again at 113.79. If it does, downside might become interesting. If it can break back over 114.37 though, upside becomes very interesting. So keep this one on watch. The plans laid out for you in the options watch list in the Xtrades Discord for those of you who are members. What's up, Chris? Good morning to you, brother. How are you? Hope you're doing well. All right, start dropping some ticker requests in these chats, folks. Let me know what you want me to take a look at. We're at the tail end of our trade plan review and going to get into some new trade plans for today and for the week ahead. Again, keeping in mind that we have the FOMC rate decision and economic projections and Jerome Powell's press conference tomorrow that I've probably already mentioned more than I should, but very important stuff happening Wednesday. What's up, CK? How are you? We can take a look at Intel for you, of course. Happy to do it. So Adobe, I'm sure this was an unknown reviews setup with the, in fact, I haven't heard from unknown reviews this morning. If you're here, say good morning. If you're not, I'm worried. I hope you're well, wherever you are. We saw a push up, looked like it was going to, break out and move to the upside, but that earnings report kind of totally upended that whole scenario. Sent Adobe down to the basement and rejecting PT3 for puts, making lower lows from there. So this one looking pretty bearish at the moment. And again, earnings catalyst play. So a little bit tougher, and certainly a little bit tougher to kind of gauge, how we should have these plans set up when we've got kind of a major catalyst that can really send things in one direction or the other rather quickly. Last but not least, IBM. This one, let's see, this one was one that we had to do some fib extensions on. They look decent, but maybe a little bit off. And again, sometimes things can be a little bit off. Although I'm noticing I didn't do a good job of lining up this with our actual all-time high. If we bring that down, I just got sloppy and drawing these fib extensions is what that was. So yeah, my apologies on that, because that would have moved these levels down, and let's go ahead and fix it now. That's looks a lot better. So if you're still in this, I would make a small adjustment on PT3 down to 221.21, which is where we had it. But yeah, I just realized that I set that 0.236 as far as where the all-time high was a little bit off, and I'm not sure how I didn't catch that before. But anyway, long story short, 210.41 did break. We've gotten two price targets, and again, now that we've made that slight adjustment to our fib extensions, they look very clean and accurate. So I expect PT3 to show some accuracy there. I would also make these adjustments, fix these levels as we look for IBM to push higher. So upside playing out, two targets hit, or pretty close to two targets hit where we had them before, with our slight adjustment there because I, again, just had my fib extensions not laid down on the chart correctly. That's on me. My apologies. Making these adjustments, we are now looking at good price targets, but I feel like that's almost inappropriate to say because it's kind of hindsight. We moved the target to the price action in this particular case, but it was just because I had set this. I was sloppy when I laid those fib extensions down, so I don't usually make those mistakes. Certainly my apologies on that. But ultimately very close to PT2. If you didn't already lock profits yesterday, lock them at the open this morning as if you're playing PT2 now, because we're still pretty much in the exact same spot anyway. So, make sure to book those profits on IBM. Congrats if you followed the plan. All right, so let's get into some new trade plan requests. We've got INTC from CKZ. I guess an unknown reviews is like on vacation or sick or something. Somebody check on them, make sure they're okay, because they are here every morning, and I haven't heard anything this morning. Getting a little bit worried about my friend. All right, so let's get into Intel. They just had some interesting news with regards to their something to do with their foundries, right? Secured some funding. I thought there was something to do with a push to get its foundries kind of spun up as an independent, subsidiary. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Okay, yeah, all right. So essentially, Intel's going to make good chips for other companies because they're struggling to keep up with their own chip technology, is essentially what that works out to be. Yeah. So they got a nice little bump yesterday, and of course, one of these times where I was like, damn, Intel's down at 20. Maybe I should like pick up some shares here, and I got busy. I just got to looking at other things, and I didn't do it. And we got a nice little, probably close to 10% bump there after hours. Yeah, I mean, combined going into this morning, a little more than 10%. Anyway, let's get into some levels here. Intel is, like I said, at kind of major lows here. I mean, the lowest I was charting my higher time frame levels was down in the 25 range. So yeah, interesting times for Intel. So let's zoom out. Let's take a look. Let's see what we can find as far as support and resistance goes here on Intel. Probably going to have to go back in time quite a ways before we start to find where some of these levels are at. All right, let's see. Be cool if this acted as like a major resistance at some point. Really. Just looking for something around this 1842 though. I think it's a little bit higher actually. I think, yeah, sits a little bit more like 1879. Yeah, that's a really interesting level there at 1494. Let's see some of this recent price. I don't think we've spent a lot of time down here. Interesting rejection there. Yeah, I think there is a level sitting right in that range. Again, I have not thoroughly charted levels down in this range because I think when I was last looking at Intel and some of these lower support and resistances, I think it was probably trading in the 30 plus range. So didn't think we would need the 20s and teens in the mix when I last looked at the Intel chart, to say the least. A couple of really interesting bounces off this level. Yeah, and some good rejections too. Some tight ranges in here. Yeah, I got something right there. Right there. This is an interesting little range, though, that I think is actually, yeah. Okay, let's see how that kind of stacks us up. That looks like it's starting to make a little bit more sense. Let's go to the daily chart. Yeah, this could be an interesting level for Intel to break. I mean, I'm already looking at pretty big window of opportunity to the upside if it can break over this. What is that? 2337. There's not a lot. Let's take a look at some of these smaller time frames. Yeah, I was gonna say there's not a lot standing in the way of it, kind of just making a strong move back to the upside, maybe recovering this earnings drop. All right, we'll take a look at that here in a second. Sorry, I kind of dug in a few levels deep just as I was kind of checking a couple of things for our, as I think about how we're going to set up this trade plan. But yeah, I already like break over that 2237 level. Sorry, 2337. Though, you know what? I think we should be a little bit more patient on this. Unless we use that as a price target. My only concern there is where's a good stop loss. I guess 2218 would be reasonable. I think it needs a little bit more room though, and I'd be interested to see. Let's see. Sorry, I know I'm kind of talking out loud, outer monologue, stream of consciousness here, but just trying to figure out where exactly. Yeah, you know what? That is what I would do. So let's make some slight adjustments here. And use this daily level as our stop loss. Entry over 2337, which would then make this first price target, which looks good so far. Do have these couple of bounces down here though on this daily chart that are interesting. Right off this 2476. I wonder if there's something there we need to pay attention to. Let's just take a beat, make sure we're not setting ourselves up for too lofty expectations. Yeah, especially given this kind of big fair value gap here. I think we could bridge that up to 2531. So let's get into some smaller time frames now. Let's take a look at this. Start to hone in our price targets. We'll add levels as needed. So over 2531. Yeah, I was already kind of looking at this. 2649, I think. Smart second price target. Third target, I'm gonna go ahead and guess it's gonna be right here at 28 flat, but let's take a look at where that puts us. So I like that 28 flat third price target. That being said, buy plenty of time on your contracts. And the other thing that I will say is try to hold at least one or two runners beyond PT3 if you can, you know, set yourself up in that manner. Because I do like an ultimate kind of near-term top around 30.03, where we really kind of close up this fair value gap um, from that August earnings report. So anyway, that's the upside trade plan. I'll leave that fourth price target on the chart, so it's visible, even though we're not going to necessarily account for it when it comes to kind of determining the overall plan. All right, downside. It's really starting to look interesting below 2104 already. Let's go back in time here a little bit, though. Yeah, I do think to just chime in on the conversation that you guys are having again. I'm kind of kicking myself for just not pulling the trigger and buying those shares yesterday. Didn't really have a good reason not to. I just didn't. I was like, I probably just got into other things and was like, you know what? I'll wait till after FOMC. But this would have that little move overnight would have given a nice little cushion going into FOMC that probably would have, even in a FOMC drop, would probably have kept the position pretty close to break even. All right. So I was trying to nail down this level. Sorry it took forever. And yeah, I think there is a level right here that I think we could look to use as a put entry. If we do use that put entry, we'll give a little more room here. Stop loss 22.18, so I have a little overlap on the long and short positions. Targets for the downside. First target's definitely right here. This is what I was looking at earlier when I started eyeballing that entry level. Second target, I think we would be a little greedy to not take more profits at this weekly support. So then the question is it straight to 1751? Is there anything potentially in the way between 1879 and 1751? Let's check that real quick. Let's see how far back we have to go. Right in here. Also 1751 might be a little bit low. I need to adjust that level just a little bit. Yeah. I think it sits more like right there. Let's see how that looks. Yep. That's what I was trying to get. So 1762, slight adjustment, but as we saw with that, what was it, IBM trade plan, those little tiny, laying a level down that's slightly off can keep this from being a really beautiful, clean test of a price target versus looking like it came up just short, which again was on me, my bad. Sloppy charting, which is something I absolutely strive to avoid. All right. So let's get into some smaller time frames. Just want to take a look at sort of how indicators are setting up. This does also look good for potential buy the dip opportunity off of 2104. That's the other thing I would say. Just kind of throwing that out there. All right, cool. So let's set this up for success. Actually, this stop loss is down here. Short position. So again, remember, we got a little bit of an overlap here. I am going to leave, I'm going to leave that 30.01 target on the chart so you guys can see it. We can look back at it if we need to. Here we go. All right, so ITC straight commands. And I'll drop this here and there. All right, cool. So what are we looking for here on Intel? Well, we're looking for a break over 23.37 for continuation to the upside. That should bring us targets at 25.31, 26.49, and 28 flat. Potential stretch, home run target at 30.03 if you can establish and hold a couple of free runners. Take a shot at 30.03. Make sure you buy plenty of time on your contracts. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 21.04. That should give us targets at 19.73, 18.79, and 17.62 with a stop loss average down here at 22.18. Also, I just mentioned, could be a really interesting buy the dip opportunity. Start to build your Intel long-term equity position off of that 2104 level. So just some thoughts for you guys there on Intel. Okay, so let's take a look at what other ticker requests we got. Chris with the Boeing request. I kind of like that. Boeing, I think, is like totally, in the dumpster right now. So is it at 52-week lows? Yeah. It's kind of what I would have expected. So yeah, interesting times for Boeing, but they've made some moves that I think could, overall there's probably still, and I don't know this for a fact, so please fact check me if I'm wrong about this, but I think Boeing probably still one of the largest manufacturers of aircraft, at least in the US, if not maybe the world, right? Could be wrong about that. But yeah, looking at equities or buy the dip opportunities on this, they did change CEOs. They're trying to push things back in the right direction, at least last I heard. Let's see. That's right, they did have that strike though, which is interesting, and that's definitely what's hurting them currently. All right, so let's take a look at it. The Boeing is starting to reach some, we'd almost be crazy not to start to nibble at some shares or maybe some leaps on this one, because again, long term, big picture, I think Boeing's still got a ton of potential. They just need to get their act together. All right, let's tighten this up real quick. This looks like old gap levels. All right, so let's see where this situates us. I've not done thorough analysis of Boeing down in this range, so let's go big picture, higher time frame. Let's see what's what. So we broke that low from April of this year. COVID low all the way down here in the 90s. It looks like they're really the stronger base. A little bit more like 115. Actually, probably anywhere in this 115 to 120 range. There's buyers there. All right, I think, let's see. So this would be a good, well, where did that line just go? Why was it not changing that? That's weird. This is what I'm looking at for a potential buy the dip or short below down here at 150.08. We get I think this level sits right here, and it's actually a weekly level. I think things start to look interesting or potential continuation to the upside back over. I know I'm doing all this big picture right now. We'll make adjustments to this as we get through some time frames, but I just want to get a big picture perspective because, again, we want to find sort of that key level to potentially buy the dip off of. I would say it's down here at about 150.08. All right, so let's get into some smaller time frames here. I want to start to really hash this out. I do like a move up to this 168.39. If it does get over 160.69, to the downside. So a couple of things that I'm noticing here in this weekly level, you need a small adjustment right there. I think this now starts to look good. It's a stop loss average down for both sides of these trade plans that I'm looking at. This 140.70 daily level needs a tiny adjustment to right there to make it a good first price target for the downside. So now we see our plan starting to materialize. That's an interesting bounce just above this level where I've got it currently. I was honestly looking at this being a little bit lower. Right here. I think it is. Whoa. Didn't want to do that. Yeah, I think our second price target is right about here. For the upside of this trade plan. Let's see. So boom, boom. That's an interesting rejection. Let's get into some smaller time frames here. Does it? Yeah, flattens out pretty good. Kind of looks like it could go for a little bit more than where I'm looking at, but I'd say, as I always say, let's not be greedy. It sits right about here for our third price target. How far off is that from that? Yeah, that looks a little off. Actually, probably sits a little bit more like that. Yeah, yep. Right there at about, what is that, 180.58. All right, so that's the upside figured out. Downside, we've got one target. Let's see if we can't figure out the rest here. And we'll flip our indicators on, make sure nothing changes our minds about any of this. I was kind of eyeballing somewhere in this neighborhood earlier. I think it sits a little bit more like right here. Yep. Second price target. Third target, I think, is probably this weekly level. We're kind of running out of big rooms for down, or big roofs, big moves for downside. Would actually be, yeah, right about there. All right. So let's fast forward. Let's get back to current. Let's throw these indicators on. Let's check out this hourly chart real quick. Make sure nothing makes any major changes to sort of the scenario we were looking at there. This 333 being a little bit between the entry and the first price target is somewhat concerning. So I'll just throw that out there to, keep an eye on the 333 on the hourly. I'll go ahead and just put that out there as this upside plays out, if and when this upside plan starts to develop. I would scale out there as my PT1. And if that winds up being significantly lower based on how the price trends and how this moving average kind of plays out, if there's a decent room between it and the actual PT1 up here at 168.39, I would use 168.39 as my second target and then take the rest at 175.76. So, just kind of be mindful of this stuff as the plan actually plays out. But that's some adjustments that I would make there. I don't see anything that makes me think anything different about our downside plan. So, all right, let's lock this in. Tesla Airlines, that'll be something, that's for sure. That would scare me a little bit, though, with some of the issues they've had with trying to get full self-driving going. All right, so let's talk about these Boeing trade plans. What are we looking for? We're looking for a break of 160.69 to play targets at 168.39, 175.76, and 180.58 for upside price targets with a stop loss average down at 155.81. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 150.08. Also, 150.08 could be a really great buy the dip level or start some leap positions. When I say leap, 12 months plus time. And on all of these Boeing trades or any Boeing trades you get into, I would certainly make sure that you're buying plenty of time. But below 150.08, if that does give way, well, now we're looking for continuation to the downside. That could bring us targets at 141.46, 137.17, and 132.36 with a shared stop loss average down with the upside trade plan there at 155.81. All right, we're getting pretty close to market open. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up things for this morning's FOMO live stream. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. I do appreciate you being here. We will be back Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So with that, as we always say here on the FOMO live streams, plan your trades, trade your plans, keep your wins big, keep your losses small, go out there and get some green, secure the bag. We'll see you guys in the chats. Thank you again for joining me. Hope you have a fantastic day and hope you'll come back Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great day. Talk to you guys soon. Take care.